Hey guys, this is Marsha Speer. Welcome to Meals with Marsha. I'm going to be making some homemade biscuits today. This is a very big family favorite of mine. Has been my favorite all my life, definitely my daughter's favorite. My grandma cooked some of the best biscuits I have ever seen. My mom was an amazing biscuit maker too. Mom still is. She makes awesome biscuits. There's several different methods that you can use, and I would watch them and then I would be like, okay, I do a little bit of what Mama does and I do a little bit of what Mama did, but I don't completely do what either one of them did. So this is Marsha's version of buttermilk biscuits. So to get started, we're going to spray our pan. I always use an iron skillet, and I use a flat griddle iron skillet. It makes great biscuits. I have got my oven preheating. I'm just going to spray some nonstick spray on this so we can get ready. Really good because you don't want them to stick. All right, I'm going to take 2 cups of self-rising flour. This is a 1/3 cup scoop that I have, so I'm doing 6. Then I'm going to take another 1/3 cup and I'm going to set it aside because I'm going to need that when I start to roll these out. I'm going to move this out of the way. And then I use Crisco shortening, and I always buy the sticks because you can measure it out a little bit. Mom always used regular Crisco. She just made a well, scooped all that in and worked it out. But when I'm baking, I like to really be precise. And we're going to do 6 tablespoons of this Crisco shortening. And then you can see it has it marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to take just a little bit, almost all of it, but leave a little bit. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to cut it up into small chunks so I can work it into my flour. And I have a pastry cutter, and I've tried to use that, and you can use that, but it doesn't work well. Now I'm using my fork, and I'm going to work this in. I'm just working this in, and you want to work it in till it just looks like little lumps in there, just little tiny lumps, nothing major, okay? Just work it in. You'll make a mess. I've never made biscuits where I hadn't made a mess, but now this is where I got my trusty mat because it's easy to clean up and you don't get it in the cracks of your countertop. All right, so there it is. You see it's just kind of like little chunks in there. That's what you want. Now I'm going to use buttermilk. I have whole buttermilk. You can buy the skim kind, whatever you want to do. Now I'm going to do 1 cup of buttermilk. Once I've got my shortening worked in, I shook my buttermilk up good. Going to do 1 cup. This is a big measuring cup. I normally use a smaller one, but I'm improvising right now because that's what I'm doing. 1 cup. All right. Then you're going to work that in with your fork now, just until it's all combined a little bit. You don't work it too much. Just get it going there. Now this is strange, and sometimes your dough seems a little drier, and you just add a little bit more buttermilk. This day it's going to seem a little drier, so I'm just going to do a little drop of buttermilk. Just, a tiny bit. Yeah, that's better. All right, you're just going to get it to come together. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take this reserved flour and you're going to put it out on your board because you got to have something to work with. And you're going to take this with your hands and you're going to dump it out right there. Okay, and you're going to fold it over a couple of times. Not too much. You don't want to work it too much because you want a good, fluffy, flaky biscuit. But you got to work it just a little bit. And then you pat it out. And then I got my little mason jar here, and this is what I use to cut because I want most of my biscuits to be the same. You're going to mash them in your hand. You're going to roll like this. And then you're going to place it on your pan. Roll. Now, when my niece and nephews come over, they love to do this, like, oh, Aunt Marsha, let me do a biscuit. And they'll roll on the same biscuit for 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, we're going to put that one on the side for y'all. Now, if it feels tacky in your hand, you just take your hand and touch it to that flour and then roll a little bit more. And as you do it, you're going to learn how it's supposed to feel. What I do is a lot of people put melted butter on them. I don't do that. My mom and my grandmother always put either canola oil or vegetable oil on the top. So I have just taken some canola oil that I have and I poured it in this little bowl, and I have a brush and I'm just going to brush the tops with that. Now That's going to give it that crunch on the top. Now, it's hard for me to say how long these bake. I would say about 15 minutes, but I usually work on making my gravy while I'm doing this. So I just kind of watch them and I know how they feel when I touch them. So now I'm just going to roll this off my fingers a little bit. And I'm going to take these over to the oven and I'm going to put them in and we'll come back. Hey guys, now we're going to make some homemade gravy to go with our biscuits. I'm going to get started. I got my biscuits in the oven. I will be having to stop periodically to check those because I have to see how they feel and I have to move them to a higher rack. I start them out on the bottom rack, then I move them up to a higher rack before they're ready, and then I have to broil them, so I have to watch them. But anyway, I got my iron skillet here. I have several iron skillets. This one is one that I cook in all the time. I have other iron skillets that I only bake my cornbread in. I have the flat iron skillets that I only make my biscuits in. So there's different iron skillets for different things. This is the one I cook in. So I make my gravy in it. I'll scramble ground beef in it from time to time, cook sausage, whatever. But I do not bake cornbread in this iron skillet. So, all right. So we're going to get going. I've got some mild sausage. You can use spicy if you want, but I'm going to go with the mild because I like it better in my gravy. So I'm just going to do probably about a 1/4 pound of this. You can do half if you like it real sausagey, but I may do half. I don't know, whatever I feel in the mood for. That's about a half. Now I'm going to scramble this up, okay? We're going to go medium-high heat. And it don't have to be scrambled, you know, real fine. You just kind of chop it up. Different kinds of sausage has more fat in it, but this one usually don't have a lot of fat. Another thing about gravy is I fought to find a good recipe for gravy too, because once again, Mom would fry her meat up and she'd be like, I'll just put a little flour, a little milk, and then sometimes it'd turn out thin, sometimes it turned out thick. But I was like, you know, I just want it to be just right. So I was watching a video, I think it was Trisha Yearwood, and she just made some basic gravy. So basically what you do is you do equal parts flour and butter or fat, which I just use the butter. And then there'll be a little bit of grease in here, and that's okay. And you use that, and then you use 4 cups of milk, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. But once I finally got that down, and it turns out good every time. It's not a hit or miss. It's not one time it's thick, one time it's thin, whatever. So this turns out really good every single time. Now my son, John Travis, loves gravy and biscuit. When he was little, that's all he wanted for breakfast is gravy and biscuit. He's crazy about it. They spent the summer with my mother-in-law one summer, and you know, grandparents just seem to let their kids just have their grandkids whatever they want. And every morning they get up and she's like, what do y'all want for breakfast? And they'd be like, we want gravy and biscuit. So if she didn't get up and cook gravy and biscuit, she went to Hardee's and got them gravy and biscuit. Well, they both gained 5 pounds that summer. And I was like, hey, we probably need to back off the gravy and biscuit. So we do have this for supper a lot of times at our house. We love breakfast for supper. Sometimes I'll scramble some eggs with it. But tonight we're just going to do sausage gravy and just biscuits. We're getting this going. This is cooking. I'm going to check my biscuits. I'm going to have to move them to the middle rack. I believe it's time. Yep. Got to go to the middle rack. It's super duper hot. All right. I'm going to let them go a couple more minutes. Then I'll check them again, because I always touch my biscuits and I can tell by the way they feel if they're completely done, and then I broil them because I want the tops to get just a little bit brown. And when I scramble this, I'm just going to put it on a napkin, a paper plate with a napkin, and drain that off, and then I'm just going to start with my gravy right then. I'll probably, like I said, have to get my biscuits out before then, but they'll be okay to sit there and wait on us for a minute. And another thing we like to eat with biscuits is homemade strawberry jam. I do make strawberry jam. Usually what I do is I just wait till there's a fundraiser going on at a school, and I'll just order a flat of strawberries, and they usually come in at the end of February, 1st of March. And my sister-in-law wants to learn how to make jam, so she ordered some from a little kid, so we're going to have that flat. But the other week, we went on a little road trip to Buc-ee's down in Calhoun, where they have 50 gas pumps. You know, we don't have a life, I reckon. We just do silly things like that. So we went down there to check Buc-ee's out, and I saw on Facebook that UGO in Chatsworth, which is my hometown where I was from, had strawberries, a flat of strawberries for $12. And I was like, I am not passing that up. I'm going down there to UGO and I get me some strawberries. So my husband took me down there on the way back, and I got me a flat of strawberries. And I made some jam, so I got 29 half-pint jars of jam. And when we get ready to eat, I think we're going to pull that jam out and have a bite of that too, because it's really good with a hot biscuit with butter and strawberry jam. All right, this is about done. You just want to brown it. That's all you got to do. And then this is good and hot, so we can put our butter in there and get started with our gravy. I do have to check my biscuits again. This is going. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. Let that go just a minute. Let me check my biscuits. I don't jump on nothing here. Oh yeah, those are great. I'm going to broil them for 2 minutes. They're looking a little brown already. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to take this up. I'm going to put that back on there, and I'm going to put my butter in and let it start melting. I'm just going to chunk it off here and let it go. And once it gets melted, then I'm going to add my flour. I'm going to get ready to make this gravy. Now, I'm going to put my sausage over here all the way. And I got to watch them biscuits because they're going to get brown quick. They're already about brown. I may not have to do them 2 minutes today. I may just do them a minute. And those little bits on there, you can get those off. But let that melt really good. I think I'm going to pull my biscuits out before 2 minutes is over because they're looking pretty brown. Let's look one more time. Yep, they do, don't they? All right, guys. There's the biscuits. They look great. Now I'm going to turn my timer off and my oven off, and now we can just work on the gravy. All right, this is melted. So I've got a stick of butter, and I got a 1/2 cup of flour. I used the all-purpose unbleached, just like I did with that. Doesn't matter. If you have all-purpose, you can, but it's not necessary. And you just stir that around, get all that incorporated, get all the lumps out. Then when you do that, you're going to take some pepper, quite a bit of pepper, a good amount of salt. We may do a little more in a minute. You're going to get those lumps out. Now, I need to get my milk ready. I always use evaporated milk when I do gravy. Some people just use water. I like to use evaporated milk. And I use this. And I just punch holes in it, and I put it in my, because I got to have 4 cups of liquid for this gravy. So I'm going to put it in here. And then I'm going to fill the rest of it up to 4 cups with water. So I'm going to step over to the sink for just a second. I'm going to use this because it gets all the bits out of the bottom. We're almost to 4 cups. Let's get to 4 cups. Alright, that's that. Let me turn this off. Now you got to cook your flour mixture for a couple of minutes because you want that raw taste out. And I'm going to add a little bit more pepper. I'm going to add a little bit more salt. I'm just going to let it cook for just like a minute or so. And you want your stove on like medium high because you want it to really go. Alright, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to pour my 4 cups of liquid. Did I get 4 cups? Yep. Making sure. I'm going to put that in there. Okay. And we're going to stir. And I just kind of stay with it, okay, and stir. And when you put that in, if it doesn't look too peppery enough, you can do some more salt and pepper. It's up to you. Because what's going to happen when this thickens up, we're going to turn it down to low. Keep it warm, and we're going to add that scrambled sausage back in. So just be patient because you're thinking, oh gosh, this is not going to work. But it will. All of a sudden, it'll just thicken up. And this gravy, usually, now, you know, there is times when things just don't work right, but that usually turns out just perfect every single time. But you got to take this and hit that bottom and scrape that bottom and stir. And if you feel like it's losing its momentum, if you want to pump it up one on your stove, because you're not losing the heat here, but that milk is a lot cooler. You know, it cools it down a little bit. Just let it go and just stir. Sometimes good things take a few minutes, but this will be a good meal. And like I said, Sometimes we fix eggs with it. Sometimes we just do sausage gravy and biscuits and we just have like jelly on the side, you know, things like that. This is not a diet meal, just saying. This is, to me, a comfort food meal. It's probably not something you need to eat every night or every week, but it is a good meal. And it can go a long way. You know, you can double your gravy recipe, you know, easily. Double your biscuit recipe, and it'll go. And it feeds a lot of people. And sometimes I'll pop a pack of bacon in the oven, and I'll cook a whole pound of bacon in the oven, and that's an easy way to do that. And have it ready before, so you'll have your meat, and you just keep it warm. All right, this is starting to thicken up. If you can tell as I'm stirring, it's thickening up. We're almost there. All right, this is thickening up. And you'll know, you can feel it when it's about the right consistency, and then you want to turn it to low. Okay. All right, now it's starting to bubble. It's about the right consistency. I'm going to turn it off and then go to low. And that's it. And you just take your sausage, pour it back in there, stir that around, and you got hearty, rib sticking sausage gravy with these homemade biscuits. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.